Okay, so I've spent a little bit of time cleaning this up. I actually got rid of quite a few points, and I actually kind of went back and forth a few times, kind of went back to the bare bones, started deleting stuff again, tried different values on the density and the angle, and this is what I ultimately ended up with. It's a pretty decent shape for most of the face. It is severely lacking, of course, on the nose and the chin, and the reason is because the highlights don't really allow for much really to kind of be captured there. Also because it's very forward facing, there just really is no detail to grab onto, so it's very hard for it to figure out the depth. So, and that's okay. That's not really going to be that big of a deal. We'll be able to model kind of around that. Really, this is going to be extremely helpful because we're going to have the overall shape of the face. We're going to have the scale of the face. It's going to give us a great point to start from. By no means are we going to get anything out of this point cloud, any kind of raw mesh that's really going to work for us. It's, again, just going to be a starting point. So to go ahead and create those meshes, what we need to do is jump into the Groups tab of our point cloud generator. We'll bring that right over there. And we need to define a group. Now, in the case of what we have here, this entire point cloud is going to be our group, but we still need to define that. So I'll come over here, switch into vertex mode. And by the way, notice they are smaller this time. It became a little tedious working with those huge points. The reason they were so large on my screen was because I'm working at a smaller resolution than normal, but I found that it's actually quite easy to change those after all. So they're here under Edit, Preferences, and if you come over to the Viewer Handles over here, it actually was the 3D handle size. So, and that shrunk them down to make them a little bit easier to work with. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of the points, just kind of do a once over, make sure they did all get selected. That does look good. And I'll go over here and hit Create Group. And you can also define the color of the group if you'd like. It really doesn't matter. Red will do just fine. You can also decide on multiple groups if you'd like. In our case, we're only making one mesh though. I'll go ahead and convert this back to node selection. And now we're ready to make our mesh. There really aren't a whole lot of options for making the mesh. We really just have the ability to either bake out a selected group, which will just take this group of points and make them a separate object, or we can bake these selected groups to a mesh. And for doing that, we can choose the sample level, which is going to be how coarse or how smooth it is. Let's go ahead and just create one of these meshes just with the sample level of 1. So I'll make myself a little bit of room here as well. I'll go ahead and hit Bake Selected Groups to Mesh. We'll give that just a moment. Typically, this should be pretty quick depending on the amount of points you have. I ended up deleting a ton of points, so it really shouldn't take that long. However, if you left an enormous amount of points there, this could take several minutes. Either way, I'm going to go ahead and pause while it does its thing. Okay, that only took a few moments, and here is now our baked mesh. You can even see it's a separate node, baked mesh group. Now you're not going to see it immediately. You'll have to double click on it to have it show up, and you'll see that there is in fact a mesh here now. I'm going to go ahead and shift it over on the X over here, and you can see that it is a fairly dense mesh. However, we can't really see any detail on it, and that's because we don't have any lights in the scene right now. So I'll go ahead and make a quick light just for testing purposes. Come over here, lights. There's our light, and I'll go ahead and just move it over a bit. Now, you'll notice that it doesn't really look all that great, and that's okay. Basically, it's giving us the landmarks we need. We know where the chin is, we know roughly where the kind of bump for the nose is, we can see the lips roughly there, the eyes are roughly there. The forehead's a bit of a mess, but again, it's not a big deal. It's basically just a starting point for creating our mesh inside of Maya. So it is, though, as we see here, a bit on the lumpy side. So if you want, you can try to actually create yet another mesh that's going to be a little bit smoother. So we can do that by going back to our point cloud generator here. And this time, maybe selecting 3 samples. You can go actually pretty high, but I think 3 should be fine. And we'll go ahead and hit Bake Selected Groups to Mesh once more. Hit that once more, and I'll pause once more. Okay. We're all done, and we now have yet another baked mesh here. So to kind of get all of these to appear, I'm going to connect them to a scene node. So we can actually go ahead and bring them down, connect them to the existing scene node over here. I'll just kind of drag everything over. Oops. And we'll just connect all of those. Okay, and now we can grab our new mesh. Oops, looks like it's actually that one right there. And I'll go ahead and shift that one over. Let me actually deselect those other ones. Shift that over. And let's have a look at what we have now. So you can see it's definitely smoother. I'm going to move the light over so it's a little bit easier to see. Don't seem to... There we go. Didn't have my gizmo there. It's definitely smoother, but that's not necessarily a good thing. You can see we've kind of lost a bit of the division. I mean, not that there was much of a nose to begin with. It has smoothed out the forehead, but not really that much. It's up to you which one you prefer to use. Honestly, either one will do the job. They both have roughly the same volume. I'm probably going to do something kind of between the two. What I may very well do is jump back one more time to my point cloud generator. And rather than 1 or 3, I'm going to do maybe like 1.7. So a little bit smoother, but not that smooth. So we'll go ahead and bake that. Pause while it does its thing. Okay, we have yet another mesh. Go ahead and bring, oops, didn't mean to disconnect that. Go ahead and hook that back up just in case, and bring our new mesh down. We'll plug it yet again into our scene node. Oops. There we go. And let's see what we have now. I'll go ahead and shift this one over, and maybe we'll just pull this one down and forward a little bit here, just so we can kind of view it as well. So, whoops, maybe even give it a little more light there. Oops, sorry, I pulled it in the wrong direction. The handles are very small. It's easy to kind of miss them, especially I'm dealing with very little real estate here on this smaller resolution. And you can see that this is gonna, I think, work for me. I can still tell where the eyes are, I can still tell where the nose is, the chin, but it's at least a little bit smoother than this one over here. So at this point, we've gone about as far as we're going to be going inside of Nuke, at least for the time being. We have a camera move, we also have a decent kind of starter mesh to work with. So what we want to do now is take this data into Maya, where we have some real modeling tools that we can begin building a surface that we can try to match to the actual footage. Now, there are modeling tools in Nuke, but they're fairly limited. They aren't anything that I would try to work with for any extensive period of time or for any even moderately complex model. Honestly, not even for many simple models. So in the next lesson, we'll take a look at what we can do to begin exporting this data for use in Maya in our next module. So see you in just a moment.